Hey guys, what's going on? Today we are going over the AddMotoR M-60 electric bike. So I'm actually really excited to be able to do this review for you guys. You've had a lot of requests for this bike in particular, the M-60 from AddMotoR. So really cool to finally be able to unbox this thing, put it together, and show it to you guys. So I've been doing quite a few of the AddMotoR reviews. I think this is like my 7th or 8th one. And right off the bat, I mean, this is it's just a sweet bike. It calls back to like a retro style. We've got these little 20-inch wheels, 4 inches wide, so the fat tires. This kind of retro looking frame. We got the banana seat up here. Pretty large banana seat. I think it's about 8 inches wide and about 20 inches long. These kind of nice high-rise swept-back handlebars, adjustable stem. It just makes for a really comfy ride overall. We do have front suspension up here as well. And this thing, again, is really just a fun ride. And it reminds me a lot of the Super 73 from Lithium Cycles, which Court actually reviewed a while back, I think in October of 2017. So there's definitely some similarities here between this bike, the M60, and the Super 73. But there's also a few key differences. So first of all, the biggest difference is this bike runs for $15.99, while the original Super 73 from Lithium Cycles is about $3 grand. So right off the bat, big difference right here. This is an aluminum frame. This weighs about 65 pounds. The Super 73 is a steel frame and I think weighs about 75 pounds. This has front suspension. The Super 73 does not have front suspension. Originally, I think the Super 73 had a mid-drive motor. I think they've now changed it to a rear motor, a hub motor like this one here. This has 500 watts. Super 73 has 1,000 watts. Let's see what else. This has an adjustable stem right here. Super 73 does not. This has pretty much mostly internally routed wires. Super 73 does not. I think this has 170 millimeter cranks. Super 73 I think has 140, so a little bit shorter. So I want to just call out kind of some main differences real quick between this one and the Super 73, because again, the Super 73, it's cool because I think they kind of, they really kind of popularized this frame, which is, great, good for them, that's awesome. But what's interesting is, they kind of popularized it for the New York market, right? That's kind of, Casey Neistat reviewed this, some of the big YouTubers, and it's like a big New York bike. But, the Super 73 and even this one too, it has a throttle. So it's like, for the New Yorkers out there who are watching this may not be the bike for you, because with the throttle, it's a class 2, and in New York, it's illegal. You can't have a throttle for an electric bike. So, if you wanted to use this one or the 73 legally, we'd have to take off the throttle right here just to do that. So I don't know, kind of defeats the purpose. Kind of some other things real quick about this is like, I really want to emphasize that this is a fun bike and that's kind of about it, right? Because look, here's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna hop on this bike, get a shot real quick. Okay, here's my feet, and it's like, I can't really get a full pedal stroke with this. The only way to really, especially if I sit up forward, I mean, look how bent my knees are, even at the lowest angle right here. And it's a non-adjustable seat, so I can't adjust the saddle height. I really can't get any leg extension here. If I want to sit really far back towards the back of the seat, I can extend my legs a little bit further, but because the saddle is so wide, this banana seat, my legs stick out. And to borrow in Court, it's kind of like I'm chasing my legs when I pedal. It's like this kind of like sideways motion. And if I pedal for a long time on this, I'm gonna get knee strain. I kind of have some bad knees from snowboarding when I was younger, and that's just not something I really want to deal with. So I've ridden this thing for, let's see, I think about 13 miles on the odometer here. And in that 13 miles, I really relied pretty heavily on the throttle and the pedal assist, because like I said, it's kind of hard to really pedal on this thing. So and we only got one frame size here. It's this 18-inch kind of virtual seat post frame size. So not a lot of options there for different rider heights. I can change this stem right here. At least this stem is pretty adjustable. I can bring it pretty much down to about -10 degrees right here, and all the way up to really almost about 100 degrees. So that's going to help me to adjust my reach quite a bit. And also, like I said, I can really scoot back or forward on the saddle to help adjust reach, and also to help adjust kind of, I guess, my stroke length, or instead of adjusting the saddle. But yeah, so just a few things kind of to start this review off. I had to call that out, but I want to talk about the company real quick. AddMotor because I've had a lot of experience with this company. And so AddMotor is a direct order only company. So they only sell bikes online, you know, so there's no physical stores. And for direct order companies, I have found a couple of things to be true of them normally, and this goes for AddMotor. So the first off, and I would say the best thing about a direct order only company is the price point, right? Again, going back to $15.99 for this is similar to the Super 73. Arguably maybe even a little bit better internally routed wires, the front suspension here, and it's about half the price. So that's great. Now, there's a couple of caveats though, a couple of negatives, some kind of downsides to this direct order only too. First and foremost, well look, I can't try these bikes out before I buy them, right? So I kind of got to just pull the trigger, swipe the card, whatever expression you want to use, get the bike, see if I like it, and that's it. There's no physical shops to really test this thing out at. The other thing is, well, I have to assemble this myself. And I will say that for this bike, assembly was really not that bad at all. A few things I want to point out for assembly here is just to really make sure that that all the screws are very tight on this, and specifically this one right here, the one that is under, let's see if I can move this forward here a little bit, this screw that's underneath. So if I tighten this, if I go clockwise like this, tighten it a little bit, it's going to put more pressure on it when I close this latch, and that's going to make this sturdier. And I'll show you why that's a big deal right here. And I did this on purpose. I didn't tighten this very much just to show you guys this. So let's say I'm riding and I put a lot of pressure on this thing. Oh, it's not gonna move now, huh? Well, I guess I did it. I guess I had it pretty tight. But when I was riding earlier, this stem actually dropped on me a little bit because I did not tighten that down very much. So again, I just want to caution that for assembly, because you have to actually install I had to install this stem myself, screw in the star nut here into the headset, and then this already comes assembled, this stem. But again, one thing is just to make sure, really make sure guys, that this is just really kind of finesse this, get it just right, this screw underneath here, so that's nice and tight when it's latched. Okay, cool. So the last thing about AddMotor, and really with most direct order only companies, is that there can be a communication barrier, and this does exist with AddMotor. So sometimes, you know, reaching out to these guys, trying to get specifics on some of the specs, like whatever, sometimes they can't answer the questions, you know, quite exactly fully, I guess I would say. And also sometimes the length that it takes them to actually respond to their customer service is a little bit below average. Sometimes it takes a couple of days for them to respond. So I just want to throw that out there. Really want to give you guys a full comprehensive picture of what it would be like to get this bike, to buy it, to put it together. So yeah, let's get going on this bike now. So I'm going to start with a motor here, because this is it's a little bit unique, this motor, to me. This is a Bafang 500 watt motor with 80 Newton meters of torque. It's a geared hub motor here in the back. Now, those stats are pretty normal. I have tested this particular motor quite a few times now, but with this one, it's interesting. I can't say for sure, but it feels like AddMotor might have custom geared this motor, because the top speed on this out of the box is going to be 20 miles per hour. The top speed can be adjusted up to 25 miles an hour or roundabouts there in the control center, but out of the box, 20 miles per hour with the throttle or with the cadence sensing pedal assist. However, this motor, it feels like it winds out at about 17 miles an hour. It doesn't feel like it's cutting off. It just feels like that's as fast as it can spin. Now, the flip side of that is this motor feels particularly torquey with the low and the mid RPM. So getting up to 17 miles per hour is pretty easy. Especially for me, I weigh 200 pounds. This motor does a really good job. It's really peppy. I can climb hills really easily with this thing, even with just the throttle only. I mean, I really don't have to pedal much at all. And again, I can't say for sure, but I think this is a custom geared motor right here. So that's kind of cool. I haven't really seen that yet before, and I dig that. Noise level, I'll show you guys later, but you know, it's pretty standard. You can hear it running. It's not like a silent, really stealthy motor, but it's not obnoxiously loud. So that's cool. So let's go ahead and move up here to the front of the bike. So we do have motor inhibitors up here, which are great for the brakes. So whenever I actually depress these brake levers, either one, the left brake lever or the right brake lever. This wire right here on the bottom, these are motor inhibitors. So it's going to cut power to the motor, automatically shut it off, which is just great for ensuring the shortest possible stopping distance. And in my opinion, it's a really important feature for a bike like this that has the twist throttle, because in an emergency situation, I might forget to let off of this, slam on the brakes. So I like that this will cut power. And also the cadence sensor on this is really, really sensitive and responsive. This is a 12 magnet cadence sensor, so it's gonna have a higher resolution than something like a 8 or a 6 magnet cadence sensor. But normally when I talk about cadence sensors, you guys probably know by now, I start griping about, oh, there's a delay from the time I start pedaling to the time that the motor actually starts putting out power. But with this thing, I mean, really, it's like just like a tenth of a turn, and this thing will start, it picks up the movement of the cranks really quickly. Now, again, because it's a cadence sensor, not a torque sensor, the roll-on of power it's really hard, it's really fast. I mean, it's basically 100% on or 100% off. So that's the downside, but I do like how quick this thing picks up. I also want to call out this bell right here. I really have grown to like the bells when they are kind of in this cluster, between the brake lever here, this Tektro brake lever with the rubberized edge, which, by the way, I like this 4-finger, nice grip. And it's kind of between that and the grip right here, which is a non-locking kind of faux leather stitched ergonomic grip. And the reason for that is just it feels natural when I'm riding. Just my finger almost kind of rests right there, and it just makes it easy to just, oh, I'm coming up on somebody, flick the bell, good to go. As opposed to having the bell on the handlebars. I don't like that. It kind of clutters the handlebars up. Sometimes it's kind of hard to reposition my hand and flick it. So whatever, I do like that a lot right there. So this is a Spaninga Trendo headlight. Looks like it's a little bit crooked. Let's fix that. Okay, so this headlight is integrated into the electronics, which is great. And I'll show you guys how to turn this on in a minute. But this is the beam pattern here for this. And I like that I'm filming a little bit later in the day. Hopefully it'll get kind of dark here by the time I do the ride portion, so I can show you guys the beam pattern of this thing. But the beam pattern it's pretty tight, so it's basically like a ball that just shoots straight out. So that means for me, is this really good for navigating? No, because I can't see very much to the side. There's no spill. Is it good for high visibility for cars and pedestrians and stuff that are facing me? Yeah, because that ball is going to shoot further than a spill light. So that is one thing I do like about this. And again, it is integrated, so no batteries to change. You just turn on with the independent button pad. This is attached to the arch here of the suspension, so it is going to move around a little bit more than if it was attached to the actual frame, because this is unsuspended weight, right? It's got all the vibration from the ground and from the ride and stuff. So these fenders here are steel fenders, which are awesome because they are super stiff and sturdy and rigid. They don't move around at all when I'm riding. Downside to steel fenders, of course, is they're going to be heavier. They can rust, even like right here, it looks like we got scratched down to the metal. So basically anytime I get a scratch that's through the paint to the metal, it's gonna be susceptible to rusting. So yeah, I think there's some products out there that I can use to just kind of paint over this to kind of seal it back up. So that might be something to kind of keep in mind here. Just over time, watch for scratches with this. The suspension is Mozo suspension. A lot of these components are really similar to the M150 P7, the folding electric bike from AddMotor, which we reviewed here a while back. A lot of the same components, and this is another one of the similar components, is this Mozo suspension. It's got, I think it's 80 millimeters of travel or maybe 100 millimeters of travel. I don't recall, but it does have preload adjust, which is great right here. So if I feel like I'm getting dive because I'm a heavy rider, I can kind of adjust this. We do have compression clickers on the compression clicker on the right hand side, and lockout as well. So decent shocks. They're not bad suspension. 180 millimeter mechanical disc brakes here in the front and in the rear. These are the Tektro Aries kind of little brake cluster right over here. Mechanical brakes versus hydraulic brakes, maybe not as much stopping power, not as much force that's going to clamp down onto the disc itself. These cables can stretch over time, so that's just another one of those things to kind of watch out for as this bike is ridden more and more. Is this might need to be adjusted, and that can be done just by loosening this little screw right here, pulling on the cable, and just kind of figuring out how tight I want it. Another thing about this, I don't think I've called this out before, but I want to show you guys this. On the other side, and this isn't on every mechanical brake set, but this is on some of them, and it doesn't have it here. This little piece right here, this silver piece, I'm trying to get a good shot. I can put an Allen wrench in there, and if I turn it one direction or the other, it's actually going to open up or close the calipers on the brakes. And for me, that is great because out of the box, this was actually a little bit loose. I did not have very good stopping power. I tightened this up, I brought the calipers closer together, and now with the front brake, I mean, just it's really good. I dig it. You know, I do have a little bit of brake rub here. That's just, it takes time to really kind of adjust this. You know, you can bend the disc here a little bit by a little bit. I can, you know, kind of adjust the nuts here, kind of just recenter the wheel. It just takes time, but overall, I'm actually really happy with the brakes on this. I feel like they're pretty powerful, and I like that we have 180 millimeter discs here on the front and the back because, again, 65 pounds, that's a pretty heavy bike. So I want to call out the wiring here again. You know, even the wire wraps, like, I like this, guys. Like, I think that the quality here is actually pretty good. Like, I feel like they took time to really nicely wrap this stuff. You know, it's just not thrown on here. It's pretty good. And then this frame too, it's cool that they're internally routed. I mean, this shows me that this is not like an adapted frame. This is actually kind of a custom built frame, right? We got the wires that feed in. They come out at the bottom right here. And we can see that some of them are going to be a little bit exposed down here, so that's possible that this could get snagged. So same thing, just kind of be careful. But yeah, it makes for, you know, a clean bike overall, and aesthetically, like, I like that. This does come in two colors here. We got the yellow and we got the black. Yellow is nice, it's really visible, but even with the yellow, there's not a whole lot of lateral visibility here. We do have the front headlight. We've got this rear tail light. It is not integrated, this is independent. It's a push button, it takes 3 AAA batteries. It's just a constant on, and I definitely want to caution you guys, just remember to turn this off if you do turn it on when you're done riding, because I have forgotten before, and I've, you know, just drained the batteries, and it's just a kind of a pain changing it to unscrew this thing. And yeah, so, but yeah, looks clean, dig that. On this side here, something I really like is this steel derailleur. Steel derailleur guard kind of comes down over the derailleur here. This is a Shimano Altus derailleur, so kind of like a little bit of an upgrade here from AddMotor. You know, this is still kind of low on the entry-level side for Shimano, but it is above the tourney series, so that's nice. One little bit of an upgrade. I think it's 14 to 28 spread here in the back, 48 for the chainring, and the gearing feels perfect for 17 miles an hour. So, you know, it feels like AddMotor kind of thought out really what they want for the gearing. And when I'm pedaling at 17 miles an hour, or trying to pedal, I guess, like, my cadence feels right. Like, I feel like I'm in the sweet spot there for around 17 miles an hour, which again is kind of where the motor just feels a top out for me. Still though, even with this derailleur guard, you know, the power cable here is still a little bit exposed, so just want to caution just to watch out for that. If you do have to lay this bike down for whatever reason, it does have an adjustable length kickstand here on the left hand side towards the back. This is great. It does not get pedal lock, just really out of the way. But if you do have to lay this bike down, just lay it on the left hand side, not on the right hand side, just to avoid scratching any of this stuff up, hurting the derailleur, hurting the power cable. Double-sided chainring, or chain guard right here. It's plastic, but it is double-sided, which is nice. That'll help keep this chain locked on. It'll help keeping it from popping off towards the inside and towards the outside. And again, kind of going back to some differences or similarities between the Super 73 and this one, the M60. I like that they did use at least full-length crank arms here, but one thing just to keep in mind, that the longer cranks, it is going to mean that this is more susceptible to pedal strikes. So when I turn, I really want to make sure that if I'm turning to the right, that I want to make sure that my right pedal is up so I don't get a pedal strike here. So that is one of the advantages of having a shorter crank arm, but whatever. Let's see what else here. The battery, yeah, so let's talk about this. This is a 48 volt, about a 499 watt hour battery. It is locking, it is removable, and it does have a little kind of LED display right here, so you can just do a quick press and see how much juice is left. To charge it, the charging port is right up here on the top right. right there. That's great. It just means the cable is going to be out of the way from the pedals. That's nice. This is the charger for this thing. 2.5 amp output. A little bit higher than average, which is nice. So, you know, should help charge this thing up a little bit faster than, you know, the standard 2 amp hour. But getting this battery off, again, it is locking, so I do have to use the key to get this off. Just gonna put the key in, and for this, I'm gonna be really careful taking this out. I actually dropped the battery on my last review, and this one in particular, this battery, there's nowhere to really grab it. There's no handles, there's no integrated really notches for me to grab this, so I'm gonna be really careful and turn this thing to unlock it. I'm just gonna really firmly, I think that's actually locked now. Just really don't want to hurt this thing. There we go. Okay. I did it. And this is the battery right there. And then it just goes right back on like that. Make sure it's nice and secure. Lock that back up. Yeah, and I'm good to go. Cool. Great. All right. I didn't drop it that time. So let's talk about the control center here for this. Once the battery is on and locked, I do not have to keep the key in to activate this, which is great. So all I have to do to turn on the control center here is just hit the M button on the independent control pad. It's this button right here. So just do a long press. This thing comes to life. This is going to always start in pedal assist level 1, which, you know, not my favorite thing. I prefer it if it starts back in the pedal assist level that I left it at. So like, let's say I want to leave in, I want to be in 4. If I turn it off, turn it back on, you can see it goes right back to 1. So, you know, whatever. Up here on the top, you've got a 5-tick battery bar indicator, 20% increments. Not super precise. I really wish that, you know, more bike companies would start using percentage indicators instead of these ticks, but whatever. Top right, we have an odometer. I can also switch to a tripometer by just tapping the M button. Here we go. So we can see we got a tripometer now. Tap it again, goes back to odometer. In the middle, we've got speed. Current speed. If I hold up on the control center, the up arrow on the independent button pad, we can switch to average speed. If I hold up again, oops, it's going to go to max speed. Hold up one more time, boom, back to current speed. And then we have the mode, so I think they kind of label the pedal assist modes like standard or whatever, I don't really know. But then the pedal assist level down here bottom left, we have 0 to 5. So 0 is going to make this a bike that's completely dead, just a normal bike, no pedal assist, no throttle. If I want to actually activate the electronics, activate the motor, push up on the control or on the button pad, get into at least pedal assist level 1, and then I can start using the motor. Now, what I like about this setup is that in pedal assist level 1, the output from the pedal assist is not going to be, it's not full power. It's still pretty powerful, but it's more of like it tops out at 10 miles an hour. If I want to go faster than that, pedal assist level 2, it's going to top out at like 12, 13 miles an hour. It just kind of keeps going up. But what's cool is I can keep it in pedal assist level 1, and it is less power than the top pedal assist, and it is slower. And then I can use the throttle here, which is live at 0 miles per hour, which is awesome. I can use that to kind of more finely control the speed that I want to go. So I really do like that feature. And then in the bottom right, we have the wattage output. So last thing here, a couple more things. To turn on the front headlight here and the backlight, I'm going to hold the up arrow and the M button, and we should see a little icon turn on. Yeah, so bottom left, we see that little light icon, and then this is, there we go, this is backlit now. And that front headlight is on. All right, it's not really dark enough yet to see it, but again, I'll try to come back here a little bit later when it's darker so you can actually see the beam pattern on this. And then again, you know, with that front headlight on, with this tail light clicked on, it's not bad visibility from the front and the rear. So, but it not super great lateral visibility. There are the reflectors and the wheels, brightly colored frame, but still not fantastic. Go and turn that back off here. We'll just leave it on, whatever. And then last thing is if I hold the down arrow, it's going to enter into walk mode. Boom, like that. Walk mode here is not very fast, which I do like. And it's just nice for kind of walking it beside me, especially if I'm going up a hill or something I'm not comfortable navigating. I can use the walk mode and do it like that. One last thing, I really do love this throttle that it's live at 0 miles per hour. For me, I like to use it for when I'm at a stoplight or a crosswalk and I want to get going immediately, but I also use this for getting up the stairs. So I'll kind of get back on the bike if I'm climbing stairs with this thing, put a little bit of weight, just lift my chest, kind of press it down onto here, it kind of puts a little bit more pressure on the back wheel. And then I can use this to really just kind of scoot the bike up the stairs one at a time, and it's really, really helpful. I really like that. A few more things I do want to call out here. Again, obviously there's no rear suspension, no seat post suspension, but the fat tires, they do have a pretty high air volume. It does make for a pretty cush ride. We can go all the way down to 5 PSI up to, I think it's 35 PSI. So if I wanted to tackle sand, which I think this would be so much fun on the beach, if I wanted to tackle snow or just soggy terrain, whatever, I can air these down and it's going to increase that tire patch. You know, it's going to flatten the tires out a little bit more, give you more traction, more surface area on the ground. Now with these tires 4 inches wide, there's already a pretty big tire patch and there's a lot of rolling resistance. So, you know, a little bit of trade-off there. One thing I do like about these tires though is we have 13 gauge spokes up here in the front, but AddMotor actually opted for 12 gauge spokes in the back. They're thicker, so that's great to kind of compensate, give a little bit more stability with that, you know, the motor in the back, which is cool. Also, really wide hub spacing here. I think it's 135 in the front, like 170 in the back. That's cool. It just increases the bracing angle for the spokes. Not really super important for this bike. Like I'm not going to be taking it really that off-road, but you know, I could take it a little bit off-road, and I have taken it off-road, and it works honestly kind of well. So yeah, guys, I think we've covered this thing pretty well so far. I always feel like I'm always forgetting something, but yeah, I think we've covered it pretty well. So let's take it for a test ride and show this thing in action. This is a good clip to show the lack of extension when I'm pedaling, like I was talking about. My legs are just really up in my chest. It's pretty cramped. You can also hear the motor starting and stopping and just kind of get an idea of how loud this thing is overall. And then with this one, I'm going to switch up and down through the rear cassette here. And this also is just another good example of the motor in operation. You can also really see from this top-down view how that power cable is definitely susceptible to damage if this bike is tipped over on the right-hand side. So while that derailleur guard does do a good job of protecting it, I would just want to caution again to just be careful with that. Alright, and now we are on to the suspension test, because of course we do have that 100 millimeters of travel, so we're going to go over a few bumps here. I love the slow-mo. It just does such a good job of really illustrating kind of how the suspension works and just helps to soak up, you know, those extra bumps and those shocks. And then the tires, they also do a pretty good job of adding a little bit extra cushion as well. Here I'm just going to ride around for a few minutes just to give you guys an idea of what this bike kind of looks like in action, and I also think this angle is good to show that, you know, this can go off-road. It really can. It's not an off-road beast, but trails like this, little jumps, little bumps here and there, yeah, it can definitely take that. And you'll see right here, I'm pretty much terrified of falling into the river. Thankfully that didn't happen. And then here's one last example of kind of just a little bit more of an intense off-road, just downhill, a few extra big bumps, just again to show that, yeah, with the suspension, with the fat tires, it can take it. All right, guys, that is it for the AddMotoR MOTAN M-60 review. Hope you guys dug this review. Again, just real quick to recap, this bike I think is great for just having fun. I think it's really going to speak to those of you who love this retro design. Awesome for just cruising around, really relying on the throttle, making it more of a scooter instead of a bike. Because again, the reality is you know, non-adjustable seat height, right? So the pedal, my stroke is really cramped. My knees are in my chest. I can't get a lot of pedal power out of this. And honestly, if I do, it kind of hurts my knees. Even the side, my thighs even hurt a little bit riding this thing. It's just, you know, pressing into the saddle here, this banana seat. Like, this is not really meant for a lot of pedaling. Also, one frame size, so extra tall, extra short riders. This may not work for them. Of course, I can compensate a little bit by adjusting this stem, but you know, one frame size and only two colors. It's got the black and the yellow here. So really kind of limited on options, and you know, to boot, there's no physical stores to try this out in person. So there are some limitations to this bike, honestly. But for those of you, again, who really do like the looks, I think that you'll dig this. It is a fun bike. So I hope you guys had an awesome day. Hopefully this review was like a cool way to hopefully take a break from work or just from the daily grind. But yeah, hope you dug it. For the full write-up, head over to ElectricBikeReview.com. If you're going out to ride, have fun and ride safe.